face to face.
Should have a little sign. It says city audio company.
Okay, so they should be able to hear us now?
You're gonna have to talk directly to the mic. Those mics won't be spoken. The room can hear you, the mics still won't be spoken.
Oh, okay. So, what I stated before, the first price of the truck was 1.769. There were council members that were concerned about how the committee got the truck. They made some phone calls. We had a particular individual who worked in New York come in. He reviewed the specs. He reviewed everything with the committee, came back and said, based on what he saw, it was good. However, he added a few things after talking to the committee because they were going to have the truck for a while. So at that time, what he added went back out. It was $2 million for the truck. Just recently, as we've been still going through the process, the truck is now $2.1 million, and is anticipated that the price of the truck will go up again on August 1st. So I asked Mr. Raymond Muller to come in and to go through the process, that how he is aware, because one of the statements was that the truck was written for the specs, or the specs was written for Pierce. And so I want him to go through the process, and then after he goes through the process, if you have any questions for him, he will be gladly to answer those questions. But again, the truck will be on the agenda so that you can vote for the truck one way or the other. So, Mr. Mueller? Sure.
I have one question. The truck was 1.769. Hello? You said it was 1.769, but I also remember a value of $250,000 for a trade-in, which would have made the cost $1.5 million. Is that correct?
I believe so. Don't quote me on that.
I thought that was...
Just gets taken off.
Right.
It's taken
Is
off.
that still the case with the new figure?
Pricing?
The
We would have to have the truck appraised again because that was a few months ago. So obviously things changed.
Nope.
Unfortunately, it probably wouldn't be more in this case. But again, that's based on what we do is two different ways to handle used trucks. We can do a direct trade-in where we come in and get a private broker to come in and tell us what that truck would be worth as a brokered vehicle. What that means, that will be the least value. That's a trade-in value. That broker now has to take that truck. He has to fix it, do things to it, sell it, and then make a profit. So you'll make the least.
So the spread is $500,000 now, from 2.1 and potential trade-in value versus 1.5 million. Correct?
Well, the price of the truck is
It depends on what the value of
2.115,
the
roughly.
truck comes in.
and then you'd minus the trade-in. Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
So, thank you.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
So we could, just to finish the trade-in address, we'll take that trade-in, whatever that value is, that would come off the top end of the original contract price. We would, after the contract award, we would get a broker to give us a definite price on it once we know we have a deadline of when the new truck would be delivered. So as we started the committee, as the committee started with myself, we were brought in and asked to demo trucks for them as they were selecting a vendor to deal with. We did several demos here in town. I was told the truck had to meet certain criteria, make down certain streets, drive on certain roads, make certain turns, and also, be able to reach certain buildings. When I came in and did my demonstration with them, I'm told that I was able to meet all that criteria. And the reason we're able to do that is this product is a little different than what's out there. This was an 8-year-long project. Designing this truck, we have over 400 of them that have been sold, over 200 delivered. This truck is unique in the fact of its operation capabilities. So it's a shorter truck. It can outsteer pretty much any truck on the market. It can stop 60 feet shorter than any truck on the market. That's a whole intersection doing 60 miles an hour. It can meet the scrub area, which is off the side of the truck, closer than any truck in the market, allowing them to reach buildings further away from the street. They can be able to do what's called short jacking on this truck, allow other fire trucks or vehicles to go past the truck when it's set up in the street. So putting all these criteria together, we were able to meet what they were looking for. So once that happened, took a few months. They told me they were looking at everybody. Then I was told that they wanted to write a specification around this truck for the city of Long Beach. We met several times to create the specification. We finalized that over a few months. I guess then it was presented to the board for moving forward. Now, we were told this would be a couple different options for purchasing, and that could go through a bid, where you take my specifications, present them out as a bid. Every manufacturer can bid on them and present the price, or consortium. 90% of the districts that we deal with today all use consortiums. We had seen that you guys are already members of 2 of them. HGAC is the most popular one, and that's the one that so far was we geared everything towards doing this as a purchase. A consortium is basically a nationwide bid that's federally overseen. So every manufacturer of fire trucks bids their all the apparatus they offer, and then they a la carte every option you can get. It's similar to what was around for years. It was called GSA, but fire trucks couldn't be bought off of GSA because of purchasing issues and where the government set up the GSA. Plus, GSA was you get this truck that's on GSA and only this truck and the way we give it to you. The consortiums allows the truck to be purchased through a consortium that's pre-bid that allows the department to tailor the truck to their needs. So we're able to do that through what's called published options, and then a percentage of that can be done in unpublished options. So once we take the specifications from the department, we generate the spec. I then go on to HGAC contract. I pull out all the a la carte options to make an HGAC order. And if there are options that are not on there, I'm allowed 24% of the value of that truck to be used in what's called an unpublished, unbid option. As long as I meet that criteria, the order would get approved. So if you were to authorize this order, we would submit it to HGAC after a purchase order was given and the HGAC form signed. HGAC has to verify that order and check the legality of it, make sure the form was set up correctly and it's a valid order, and then it could be considered a confirmed order through HGAC. Any questions on that process? I know it's a lot. Yes.
You said you were given.
You need the mic.
Okay. You said you were given criteria for the truck. When were you given that?
It was before our even first meeting. Had to meet streets, turning. So there was a couple of roads that had big dips in them.
Do you remember? I mean, how many items were on the criteria?
It was a few pages worth of information. So as I was talking with them on the phone, I would jot stuff down and what they were looking for, and then.
So it wasn't a written criteria. It was just.
I wasn't given it was lots of emails going back. So, but. I don't know, did we start off originally on a whole written sheet? Yeah. Yeah, Google Docs, yes. So, yeah, I do have a written form. That's what we originally started. This was months ago, so yeah. Maybe even almost a year. Yeah. Yeah, probably about a year now.
And that was about, you say, 4 pages of criteria?
Yeah, at least. And over the time, it grew and grew, yeah. What they're looking for, what the requirements were for a truck to operate in this area, which is very common for a lot of tight street areas. We have several that we deal with, mostly on the South Shore of Long Island that we deal with, and we, like the city of Bridgeport, we deal with them, and they have very strict criteria. So.
Donna, I know I've asked for that criteria now 3 or 4 times. Do you think you can get it before the meeting, before the vote?
Yeah, I'll have to look back in all the documents that we received to give what the criteria is. I know that you said that it was a lot of pages that you received.
143 pages.
Okay, so I think then what you're asking for is them to identify all of the criteria they needed for that particular truck.
I'm sorry, your name again?
Ray.
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 Yes.
Ray said that initially he got a criteria, it needed certain things about narrow streets,
Yep.
stuff like that. That's what I'm looking for, the initial criteria.
Okay,
And that's what I've been, all right,
okay.
thank you.
Also, anybody else have some questions?
Yeah, right. I'm trying to understand why you want the initial criteria. Like, what do you plan to do with that?
Because I want to see what other trucks there are out there.
So you want to go price out other trucks?
No, I'd like to see what other trucks. Don't you think that's part of our due diligence, Karen? Rather than spending $2 million, say, hey, let's look to see if there's anything else available.
Okay, before we go down that path, we have a fire board or fire commission.
Yeah.
The job of the fire commission is made up of firefighters with one person that is not a fire person, to find out, they develop a committee to find out what is the best for the fire board or for the firefighters to use. In past conversations, what they have said is that they have gone to other municipalities, looked at other trucks, and they have determined what was best for them. And so I don't want to go down the path to send a signal to the staff that we sitting at this table can go and try to spec out a truck to get a better truck than what they came up with. Because we got a professional here, and I went through everything.
Who's selling the truck, Donna? Come on, he's selling us the truck.
But they went to him after they determined that was the truck that they needed.
And did you... Never
No,
mind,
go- no,
never
go
mind.
ahead, no.
Do you think that the salesman will come in and say anything but this is the ideal truck?
Okay.
Ray, I wouldn't expect you to say anything else besides that.
Hold on, let's go back. I was given the name of an individual, and I even talked to Ray about it, of an individual that could write an RFP. I know we don't agree on the price. He told me that one part of an RFP would be $4,000. To take it from beginning to end would be $10,000. Every single consultant who writes an RFP works for a company. The one consultant never called me back. The second consultant that called me, I looked him up based on some information that I had received. He had did 7 RFPs in the last couple of years, and out of all of those 7 municipalities, only 2 manufacturers were used for every single municipality. So that's another thing. Obviously, he works for those companies. There are people that work, the best person I could get to answer questions, whether he's a Pierce rep or anyone else, everybody in the field that are professionals works for somebody. So they went to Pierce after they realized or after they formulated that the Pierce truck was what they wanted.
Can you tell me what's wrong with asking what the criteria was?
Oh, no.
Okay, so
I'm not
why,
saying-
that's all I asked for.
I'm not-
I asked for the original criteria. That's it.
Okay.
Thank you.
So in the midst of all of this, I was told today there's a FEMA grant out there, and the FEMA grant will give us $1 million to pay for, to go toward the truck. You decide on Tuesday that you want to purchase this truck will not be here for 2 years, at least 2 years, 24 months. So that gives us time to write the grant and them to award us the grant and have the money already ready for when the truck is delivered, because we don't pay for the grant.
What's the timing like on that grant? Like, does it have to, you know what I mean? Like, what's the process? If we secure the funding, are we time-bound to anything?
We can only be time-bound when the truck will be delivered. There is no trucks right now that are being delivered before 24 months. As I found out today, most trucks are delivered within 36 months.
Yeah. Well, one of the benefits, Pierce Manufacturing has is Pierce's parent company is Oshkosh Truck. So Oshkosh Truck, who owns Pierce, we supply majority of the military vehicles that are in the U.S. government. So them being our parent company, right up the road from us, we share parts and we share intellectual property back and forth because that is our owner. Over the past year, most manufacturers, we all use Cummins engines. Cummins engine is the only engine that is allowed to go in the fire truck. They're the only ones that will sell to a fire truck manufacturer. So Cummins announced a few months back that they will be not delivering engines to fire truck manufacturers for 3 months. But because of Oshkosh Truck's purchasing capabilities and using the Defense Purchasing Act, we were able to secure our engines and keep our deliveries going. Wow. We do still have the lowest lead times in the industry, but they are increasing because some supplier shortages are hurting us. And they have delayed us and moved us from an 11 to 12-month delivery for a tower ladder to 24 to 36, depending on the complexity. We've moved our plants around, and we do now what's called lane building to maintain. If you have a lane 1 truck, it's a low content truck that's going to be able to be the least amount of what we call touches on it. It can go down a lane faster, be built faster. Higher content trucks will be lane 3, and they will go down, and it'll take more time. They could be more towards the 28 to 36 month range. This is a lane 3 truck because of the complexity of it. Most ladder trucks are. But we are able to secure our parts because of our supply chain. We are a worldwide company, but we try to buy everything as possible in America, and we are forced to buy North American products now. We do not buy stuff from Mexico. We now buy our steel and aluminum. Most of it comes from Canada. Because that's where we're forced to buy it from. So, but we try to keep everything. We were always an American-made company, but now we are North American-made because we have to buy some supplies outside of the country. We go north to buy it. And we are able to get it quickest, and it also meets our criteria for quality.
And Donna, right now, the ladder truck is not in service. Is that correct? Is that correct? Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
well, the one,
Yeah.
one is in service, and that's had a few problems with the brakes and some of the hydraulics, correct? Yeah, and the other one, the one that we're replacing, is not in service. And, it what? 60,
6 weeks.
6 weeks, okay. All right, so, and we have no estimate on a repair on that. Is that correct? I mean,
At this time, that is correct. What I did, based on our last conversation when we met, the group said that they wanted me to look at service contracts. And so I am looking at service contracts. I'm also going to be meeting tomorrow in Hempstead with some other people, and I'm going to ask in Hempstead, do they have somebody there, a mechanic there that actually repairs fire trucks, to see if we can get an intergovernmental agreement while we're waiting to get the truck fixed. What I will say is that I went to the training last week. They were smart. They put me in a truck that ended up having to go out of service after that night because of some brakes. And I said, you just needed to tell me it needed to be repaired, not put me in the truck. That I told them that they really need to start to be proactive. Because the truck that we went to the training in last week had to go out because of a brake issue. We need to really start looking at our fleet to make sure that the fleet can work for us, that it's not going down. So that truck went down. It went back into service, I think, within a day, but then another truck went down. And so we got to do something about it. And so what I'm looking at is, 1, intergovernmental agreement, 2 is a service agreement directly with what they're looking at 3 different companies so that we can get these trucks fixed faster.
I know that when we were talking about it, we used to have a service contract with Neville. But did we know what that cost us?
No.
I had asked, Ina had lowered the service contracts in the budget. I asked her to reevaluate that because I thought it would be going up.
When that truck was originally purchased, the committee added 3 years of service to Neville, so it was part of the whole purchase price.
But at one point, didn't we have a service contract with Neville?
Yeah.
2008, 2018? Yeah, just before I became in the office, the other chief had a service contract with us.
And,
I had the office at 19.
and we don't know what, no.
I believe I have the original document in my email. I'll search, try to get it to the commission. Forward you guys.
Thank you.
Ray, I had a question about, you talked about published options and unpublished options.
Yes.
Is published options like the base model?
The base truck would be on there.
So
And
the
that
base truck is.
That could be, let's say we have, it could be a different cab, it could be a different chassis, but it would be that tower ladder, the Ascendant 100-foot mid-mount tower ladder. And then we take that, and then we have a whole book of published options, which is downloadable on HGA's website. And then we pick every option that the fire department needed to make that truck tailored to their specifications. And then there were a few items that were not on there, which would be called an unpublished option.
So could you send the fire commissioner the base option
Sure.
for the
Yeah,
truck?
it's,
Because the council has asked for that.
Yeah, it's on the HGAC form that was sent, it's actually the first line item on there, and then the second page would show all the published options that we used.
Okay, so
and
we
then
already
the
have it.
unpublished. You should have that HGAC form should be somewhere, but if not, I can resend that.
So we already have the base model.
Yes.
And then, can you explain why the unpublished options can only be 24% of the total value? Is that a guideline?
That's a guideline of HGAC to prevent people from ordering a base model and adding stuff that was not bid. So that's HGAC criteria that to meet all the legalities of a bidding process. So like we talked about GSA before was this is the truck you get and that's it.
Right.
So HGAC allows you to tailor a truck, and the only way they can do, you can't have every single option in the world available
Right.
to you, but they'll give you a percentage of the value that they allow you to put in as an unpublished option, something that may be unique to Long Beach or just something that's not unique to the whole country, so this way they don't bid it. We do anywhere from 8 to 20% on average of unpublished options.
And what is our percentage?
Your percentage is 9.68%.
Excellent. Thank you.
So,
Actually, you do have it, but we'll
Right.
send it back to you again. Yeah, if you could just send it to me.
sure,
Yeah.
I will actually send, only one we sent so far was the one from 2 prices ago.
Right.
So I will update
And
that.
that,
Yes.
actually, that sheet has their criteria.
Yeah, it's their list. It's the main criteria would be the line item specifications, which is every single option that is in this truck. So what we do is we create that, and then that document creates the specifications. So this is the written detail that calls out what every option is and a whole paragraph about every single option.
Okay.
So the line item is a lot more friendly to read, and then you can look up exactly what that was.
So are you
So
looking
that's a
for the line item, Roy?
No, the line
just-
item has everything that they put into the truck.
Yes, correct.
I
That's,
wanna
and so is
see
the spec.
What the original criteria was that led to, deciding on this particular truck.
Sure.
So
I can send you that, yeah.
So,
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
so is this the base model?
No, that's the truck that's with the base model and every option that required to make their specifications. So that is
So
the truck.
are there 10 or 20 of the options that make the base model?
So the base model will probably have majority of those options because the base model would include, it's going to include the driveline, the cab. it's
Yeah.
gonna include- So it is.
Yeah, I was just, because if you took the base model
Yep,
and it had 36 options,
Yep.
that's basically the template that you could use to price out any other truck, any other ladder truck. Right, Roy?
No. When we had, and you were there at the meeting, when I asked what was the criteria, Joe was saying, the horsepower and the engine were two of the main things. I'm looking for the criteria, not, all different things that, you can get on any truck. The criteria that makes this truck specific, that why it has to be this truck. And I understand, it's totally possible that this is the only truck that will take the turns and, go under the wires and all sorts of stuff. That's what I have not been able to get. Why this truck? That's all I'm asking.
Yeah, they can send you the written version of that, I guess, and then, but as far as the truck itself, what we've done, the reason this truck has been so popular is because we designed it to meet everything that's been asked for over the years. For years, just a little history on this piece of apparatus, every truck that's been an aerial ladder, they built them big, they built them thick, and they built them strong, but the problem is they were too heavy. So too heavy for the street. So New York State has moved their exemption for fire trucks up to 85,000 pounds to be on roadways when they're not designed to be on certain bridges and roads and things like that. So Oshkosh, who also owns JLG Construction Equipment and Jordan Tow Trucks, when we designed this truck, it was almost 8 years ago, we brought in our engineers from each one of those. So we have crane engineers, because this is basically a crane, but it's a little more specialized. So we brought those engineers in, and we brought in the steel manufacturers, and they were able to come up with unique and custom steel to be able to lighten these trucks. This is the only apparatus that is legal to drive in Connecticut and California. California buys nothing but tiller apparatus, that's tractor, trailer-driven aerials, because they're not exempted on weight limits for their roads, so they need more axles and have to have that. Plus, their streets cannot fit an aerial down the roads that can make the turns other than a tiller until now. We are able to, when we turn, the average mid-mount, even the one before this that we sold would have what's called a 7-foot kick out. When you make a hard turn, 7 feet is going to kick out into the oncoming traffic.
Yes.
We are now down to 1.5 feet. There is no other manufacturer that can come close to that. The closest to that would be 5 foot on average. That prevents them, it's going to make them do 3-point or 4-point turns to go down the street or have to have cars move, things of that nature. So I was able to get down every turn that they asked me to turn down, and I let them drive the truck as well when I brought a demonstrator, and they were able to make those turns.
So wouldn't that be part of the criteria?
That was when the streets were, and we were, as far as I know, I was the only one that was able to make those turns. As far as scrub area, that's called when we're working off the side of a truck, and you've got the scrub area is the area of a building you're going to be able to reach. So we have a 50-degree scrub area. We can move the boom 50 degrees in either direction, and we could scrub all that building and hit that side. But being close to that building is what other manufacturers can't do to hit that scrub area. They'll run out of boom length before they can hit that. So this boom is able to do that by being not just 100 foot. Everybody offers 100 foot, but it's being able to have a closer setback. We can only be 20 feet away from a building.
Wouldn't that be part of the criteria?
Being able to hit the scrub area, yeah.
So that's
Yeah.
what I'm asking.
Yep, that's why we were able to click all their buttons. So
No, it was not.
yeah, I haven't seen the PowerPoint, but that's I was asked if we can hit these, then we were able to hit those areas. So
You have the PowerPoint right there, don't you?
Yeah, I have it right here.
Do you see it?
Well, the writing is kind of small on this piece of paper. Does anybody else have any questions?
I guess I'll say, maybe not a question, but a comment. I think we got two different issues here that we need to address. The more immediate issue is what we're going to do about this truck and whether we're going to get it. The other issue is what process do we want to follow going forward when we're purchasing other equipment? What they did is they basically followed the process they've always used and what many other volunteer fire departments use. They're probably not used to the level of due diligence that we were asking for, so for some of us, it raised some flags that, it was just, this is the truck we want, here's the cost. But they then did answer the questions we asked. So, and then we bought an ambulance following the exact same process a couple of weeks ago. So really the question is okay, we are where we are with this truck. If we want to change the process going forward, we can do that. But that's something we all got to sit down and work with the Board of Fire Commissioners and things like that to come up with what's the right process. If we were the New York City Fire Department, where we're buying lots of equipment, we would have a team of people that can sit down and write specs, so you didn't have to have the manufacturer do it. And you'd buy trucks that way. But we don't buy lots of trucks. We buy one truck every
20 years.
8, 10, 12 years, whatever it is. So, so it's the process they've always used. Based on the information we got initially, we weren't comfortable with what we thought the level of due diligence was, but quite frankly, it did take some pulling to get some of the information, but we got it. I think now they understand what we want. They gave it to us with the ambulance, and that went through pretty painlessly. But if we want to change the process, we can do that. That's a big if, we may not need to, but that's something we got to do kind of separately, and we need a group of people to work on that. So that's really just, kind of where I wanted to, we kind of seem to have two separate issues here that we're doing a little mixing and matching on, in terms of the process and where we are now. So,
Well, John, just, from where I'm coming from, I like the bid process. I
understand.
I
That's what
like
I'm
the
saying.
bid process. I don't like a process that doesn't put something out to bid. And, and if it's not going out to bid, I'd like to see what went into it.
Right.
That's all I'm asking.
And we buy, the city has bought numerous other things through consortiums over the years.
I didn't say I like it.
No, I'm not saying
Yes.
it's right or wrong. I'm just
Yes.
saying we buy other things through consortiums as well. I guess what I'm trying to say is, like I said, they followed the process they've typically followed in the past. Like I said, having been on the council in some previous administrations, the level of due diligence certainly had a much lower bar than we have. So, they gave us the information they would have given other councils in the past. When we asked for the additional information, it took some time, but we did get it. So, so we're kind of at, it is, we got the information. There's probably not much more information to be, I guess you could get that rougher set of criteria, if, I'm sure you're welcome to say, I'm not sure what you're going to do, because it's really the detailed spec that
Well,
the truck is.
What Ray said is this is a truck this is the only truck that can do X, Y, and Z. And if we need X, Y, and Z, then it's a no-brainer.
Well-
But that's what I have not heard.
Right, and that was,
Yeah.
look, that was some of the initial things that raised the red flags, is we were given some very crude, it's shorter than other trucks, it's not as tall as other trucks. And I did a simple Google search and said, well, this manufacturer's got a truck that's 2 feet shorter. This one's got one that's 8 inches tall, less height. But I'm not a fire truck, but it raised red flags for me, but that's why we asked the addition.
Firefighter,
What'd I say?
fire truck. You're not a fire truck.
Oh, sorry, yeah. But, that's why we kind of peppered them with all those additional questions, but, they gave us the answers over, again, I think it was a little bit, I said it at, the months before, I think there was some poor communication in the process. Like I said, I don't think their expectation of what we were looking for was anywhere near what our expectation was. But like I said, they figured it out with the ambulance, and the ambulance, they gave us what we wanted for that. So now going forward, like I said, I keep saying, you don't like this process. You prefer a bid type process, but that's something that I would hope the Board of Fire Commissioners would take up and say, maybe what we do need is a written process on how we procure large equipment like this in the future, going forward, whether it's ambulances, we've heard we might need another ladder truck, we might need a pumper, we might, need other equipment. So,
And that's part of the process too with this equipment, is that we've asked and we're getting things that are due to be replaced, that we and future councils will know, oh, you need to start saving money for this gigantic piece of equipment that's going to be coming up in your budget. So we're all working towards the right way to go, and this proves it.
So, you know, with the FEMA grant of $1 million, and then the trade-in value, say 250, no.
I would,
It's gonna be 180.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're not
I
going
would-
to put,
Because
no.
it was 250 then, and then it's gonna keep
Because,
depreciating.
right,
Yeah.
we're talking 24 months,
All right.
Gonna be-
I would,
a minimum 24 months.
you will be under 100 grand for a trade-in.
Maybe we can make it a piece of paper.
All right.
You'd get the most money if you sold it yourself. You'd have 2 years to sell it. That would be the most bang for your buck, to sell it as is, as yourselves, but that's also a tough thing to do.
I think the first thing we should do is see about getting it repaired, because if we need this ladder truck to not be short one for 2 years,
Yeah, you're going to need
Does
it
it-
operational. And we offer those services as well. We have a full repair facility, so we're not the manufacturer of that truck, but we are certified to repair.
but you've never looked at this particular
I have not looked
truck.
at your truck, no.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
we could find that out for you. We'd be more than happy to evaluate it, take it to the shop for a few days, find out what your complaints are, and tell you what it would cost to fix it.
You were talking to Hempstead potentially about an IMA where maybe we could
Use their
get
mechanics.
a
Yeah.
piece of equipment from them if we need it. I mean, another potential one is FDNY. Maybe they have,
We can't use their ladder trucks. I can tell you that. It's a question that I can ask. What I'm looking for Hempstead is really for a mechanic.
oh, okay.
Is to fix the trucks that we have. Now, if we have the ladder truck repaired, does not mean that you don't buy a new one. It's just holding it together until the new one comes.
But
Yeah.
it also increases the value if it's repaired.
Possibly. Yeah, possibly. I could work with them to see how much it's going to cost, because if we're 24 months out now, we got 2 years that we have to use that ladder truck. But we also have other trucks that are going out. So I do agree that we need to come up with a procedure on how we do large purchases. So for the fire trucks, we will work with the fire commission, but we need it for all. We will be updating our procurement policies, period, so that we can buy what we need with less pain. Is there any other questions?
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yes,
Appreciate
thank
it. Thank you.
Actually, just one. So for like a truck like this, for example, where we feel it needs to be replaced, but there is some residual value to it.
Yep.
So what are there companies that take these things and rehabilitate them and then sell them?
Yeah, there's a few brokers in the area that are large enough that can handle refurbishment of trucks. Pierce also refurbishes trucks too. We have a whole refurbishing center, but the closest one would be either Command Fire Apparatus or Brindley Mountain. Brindley probably has the largest refurb center that I'm aware of, who takes trucks in. They'll buy them as a direct trade-in, and then they'll repair it, upcharge it, and then sell it.
And there's a market for those?
There's a market. There's a big market out of the country, but there's a big market also in rural areas. You've got small towns who don't care what NFPA says. They need something because they have nothing, and they have
Okay.
zero budget. So those are the towns that buy them. But they'll get the truck for, let's say it was a $25,000 trade-in that went to the direct trade-in, it was fixed up and done, he'll sell it for $75,000.
Oh, okay.
So, because the broker still has to make money, he's got to put work into it depending on what's wrong with it, so that's where it gets wrong. That's sometimes a direct sale, some departments choose to do that. It's a service we offer where we could broker it as part of the contract. We don't make any money on it. You guys set the price, the sale price with the people that we bring. We advertise it for you and give you an opportunity to sell it within those 2 years for what you say as an as-is type deal. You'll make that final retail cost as opposed to, you'll have to show it, so you'll have to have that availability and stuff where the broker would normally do that, but we do offer a free broker service because we have 2 years to get rid of that truck for you. And that is no charge.
Can I ask Joe a question?
Yeah.
Joe, what are your plans if you don't have another ladder truck for 2 years? How are you going to cope with that? And the one that you do have goes in and out of service. How?
We will hope that the city does its best to repair it as much as possible, that we keep using it.
But it's been out for.
There is no other plan for any other ladder truck. So unless a new one is purchased, by
No,
the board.
I'm talking about for the next 2 years. If we purchase this today, we don't get it for 2 years.
Right.
At least 2 years. I'm talking about in 2 years. During that period, what kind of plan do you have? The other ladder truck has problems, correct? It's been in and out of
It's been in and
service.
out. It's still out right now. We're hoping to get it
So
back
it,
soon.
so we don't have a ladder truck
It
right
would
now.
be, it would be an agreement.
There's other options. There is
Yeah.
always renting a truck.
Yep.
For the time that we need it. There's the option of keeping this one running as much as possible, in and out of service for the next 2 years.
How about other municipalities? Is it,
Right,
you call it aid, mutual aid? Is that
We
what
do
you?
have mutual aid agreements,
Yeah.
Throughout the county, but again, then you're relying upon someone else. Eventually, you burn them out when they say, well, we're not gonna cover, or they're gonna start charging us to come to our town, because we're not covering our own.
Any idea what a rental costs of a
No, I don't.
ladder?
I've seen them in the price range of $80,000 to $100,000.
A month?
It'd be 6 months on average, 80 to 100 grand for 6 months. But again, every broker is different. Brindley would be one of the larger ones who would rent the truck. But then you're fully responsible for that truck, the repair, the maintenance, and damage. It's a tough contract. It's a tough contract to
Well,
get
we're
into.
responsible for ours anyway.
Absolutely.
So, you
But
know.
they'll be nitpicking that a lot more than you will, because it's their truck. Same thing with mutual aid. You start bringing mutual aid companies in, you're responsible for any damage that incurs during that call on their truck. It gets tough. So it's, rentals and mutual aid are tough because they get expensive.
So is the key more maintenance agreements to get it to a Pierce mechanic?
Just like with any piece of apparatus, preventive maintenance is always the key to keep everything running longer.
But,
For us right now, it's been an issue. We do, and the garage does as much as it can, but they take care of the whole city, not just the fire department.
So-
We need more preventive maintenance done on our apparatus, because they're specialized vehicles.
but for the existing one that's out for 6 weeks, we're past preventative
It's
maintenance.
been out because also we're waiting for parts.
Oh.
The supply line, yeah, it really does mess with everything. So we are waiting for parts. We have no control over that. The truck is out until those parts come in. Once they come in, they're being fixed. And that's what's going on with the ladder truck right now. They were waiting for the parts, they got them in, and then they discovered something else. So
But if you, can't you take it for a diagnostic and see every blessed thing that's wrong? And,
that's
start
why
to,
we're ordering a new truck.
and then, but start to, a strategy to order what's gonna go out? For the existing truck, yeah.
That's tough because, we don't know what's going to happen next. You can't predict the turbo's going to go next week or the brakes or electrical 6 months from now. We don't know. We have to take it as it comes.
I thought that's what a diagnostic does, when you take it in.
Well, you'll do a diagnostic and tell you what's wrong right then. It's not going to tell you what's going to happen 6 months from now.
Donna, could you look into what a rental would be? Just because I don't think we are in a great position with possibly having no.
Okay.
I would
said-
call Brindley direct. I've seen it
Yeah.
60 to 80,000,
I'll call
and that
you
would be
tomorrow.
like at a 6 months. I can give you
Get
their
that
contact
Yeah.
information.
Yeah, I will.
They're out of Pennsylvania, and they work pretty well. Their inventory may be a little low now, too, as well, because people are buying used trucks to get through.
Right.
We've sold a few used trucks while people are waiting for their 2-year trucks to come in. We have other trucks that are out there that are waiting to be sold, so, but those are usually high-dollar ones, so.
Have the mechanics in the garage made any comment about, basically using Band-Aids and bubble gum to hold this thing together at a bare minimum versus throwing some money into it and maybe doing not a full rehab, but enough to, get it functioning better than, bare minimum?
They do everything that they can to keep it going. They put as much as they can into it, and if not, they do send it out to like Neville, or they'll send it somewhere to get fixed, if it's above and beyond them.
They do that for all fire trucks.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's not just this,
Yeah.
but yes, of everything. But they try to do as much as they can in-house. Our problem is we need a lot more preventive maintenance.
And you need specialized mechanics.
Yeah.
For these type of,
Yes.
equipment, yes, absolutely.
All right, so.
71 covers fire department mechanics, what they're supposed to be able to do, how they're supposed to be able to fix it, what the requirements are.
Okay.
And again, if you're running into problems with getting that fixed, we do offer that service. We have a full repair center, so that's something we
Okay.
could evaluate your truck and give you, we could evaluate it for free, give you an idea of what we think should be
Free,
done.
I like that word.
You like that?
We knew you.
We do it all the time. It would be, we could bring it in. We're not going to bring specialized tests in or anything like that, but we can bring it in for a day and have one of our EVTs, emergency vehicle technicians, go through the truck and give you a ballpark, what we think. It's hard, like he says, it's hard to say what's going to fail tomorrow, but we could see what's there and what looks like it has some potential. That option is there, so, and it's something we can do.
Okay,
We
so-
do that all the time, so.
And then I'll get the name of the company. So they will look at Ray will look at the truck to see what can be done. We will also look at what the rental cost will be, and then we'll move forward. But I just wanted to make sure that we'll try to get I don't know if we'll get what it'll cost for it to be fixed by Tuesday, but at least I can get the potential rental cost. But the truck will be on the agenda on Tuesday. Thank you very much. And
No
I
problem.
will.
Thank you, Ray.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I just texted one of my guys in the shop. We do have a 1996 truck that's a 1996 Pierce rear mount that's going for $175,000, but there's not a thing wrong with it. To give you a ballpark of what,
175,000 for what, the truck?
the whole truck.
Just like purchase?
Yeah, it's a 1996. It's a trade-in for one of the trucks we just sold them, so.
Cheaper than a rental.
Yeah,
Well,
that is cheaper than a
here's what you
rental.
could look at. It's cheaper than a rental. It's also will get you through 2 years and still that would have more residual value than yours would right now as a trade-in, where you could sell yours,
Yeah,
offset some of the cost of a trade-in like that, and have a truck that will make it 2 years.
Do we get any warranty with that when you buy?
That'd be from direct from another fire department. Selden Fire
it's
Department is
right
selling
from the
that,
fire
yeah.
department.
So that would be a direct, we're brokering it for them, and they set the price. That's what they're looking for it.
Just if it-
That's overpriced, but that's what they're
And
looking
it could
for.
be here tomorrow, is that what?
Yeah.
Yeah, but then you talk about the scrub and everything else.
This wouldn't do that. This is an older truck. It's a rear mount. It would have all the capabilities
years,
that they have
Karen.
now. So,
You got 2 years, no matter what.
yeah.
I don't drive the thing.
Ray, I just had a question. How tall is it?
It's a 100-foot rear mount Pierce platform.
The height?
100, it's gotta be just under 12.
okay.
Should be
So
right
what
here.
I'm gonna do is like, it's almost 8 o'clock and we don't want to be here till 10. So I need you all to talk to see if that's the best option. I'll get back to the council and we'll go from there. Because we have parking meters to discuss and you all will be talking about parking meters for a little while. And then I just have a couple of announcements.
When's the next fire board commission?
In about a month.
We just
Yeah,
had
we just
one.
had one.
So while they're getting ready, what I will say is next week, next week, who is it? Who's coming? So you threw me off. Our Moody's will be here next week.
Thank you.
Moody's, the rating agency. It's time for us to go through our rating agency call. So Ina came up with the perfect idea of inviting them out. Bye-bye, guys. Thank you. Thanks, guys. Inviting them out to the city. So we're going to take them on a tour of the city, so that they could see, the city. Then we will have lunch on our own. We're not paying for any lunch for anyone. We'll have lunch on our own. And then we will do our typical Moody's rating call, which is about an hour, that Ina and I and CMA is on. The goal is that they will see all the good things that we have done, what we have planned on doing to increase our rating. So that's a good thing, that Moody's is actually going to come out and take a tour with us. Thank you.
Is that common that they would come so soon after an upgrade?
No,
No.
So
No,
is that
so-
a good sign?
Yeah.
definitely. Definitely.
Yes.
When you're doing good work, you don't need to scream it in the microphone. People know.
Touche. Good evening, everybody. So speaking of making attempts to get something on the agenda.
That's the way the copier works.
We are here tonight, myself and Jerry Gioza,
Hi, Jerry.
to report back, give you a sort of re-primer with where we stand, give you an update on the conversations that we have been having lately and the changes that we're putting on the table for the council to consider. So we're going to run through our updated presentations, talk about some of the conversations that I've been having out in the field, some of the feedback that we've received, and how we might begin to tweak what was originally laid on the table in response to those questions or suggestions. Jerry's alarm is telling him that it's time for us to begin. And then really what I think we would like to walk away from tonight is a clear direction from the council. What other questions, concerns you folks have, what avenues we should start to run down as opposed to just walk down, because we really do want to get this to a council vote sooner than later. The original goal is really next week. Whether we get there or not is going to be dictated by how we do tonight and what kind of direction we get. So
I'm a little uncomfortable with a clear direction from the council, because that's like polling and that's close to a vote. So, I mean, we can give our opinion.
Of
but
course.
Please don't ask for.
Of course, fair enough.
Thank you.
So I'm going to hand it over to Jerry Gioza, who is, as you all know at this stage of the game, our consultant on this project. Has been working with the city on and off again for the better part of a decade. I think this is the closest it's ever gotten. So he and I are both excited about that. He is going to, really the first 3/4 of this presentation has been given to you guys at least twice already. So he's going to burn through those, but just so it serves as a refresher. And then as we get to the tail end of this presentation, I'll jump in here and there to talk about some of the tweaks that we are potentially looking at making to
John,
this.
this is not on the web.
It is not yet, because we weren't sure we were going to get on the agenda for tonight. So the older portion of it is. The rest of it we'll put up tomorrow morning. It's not a ton of it is very different. And it's a draft and non-final, but I was instructed that for working meetings, because we don't know what we're going to get to or not, that we hold off on putting it up because we don't want to put information out there that is not discussed. So, or final. So with that, Jerry.
Okay. Thanks, John. Good evening, everyone. As John said, I am going to go through this quickly, the first 3/4 or so, but if at any point you want to put the brakes on, just let me know and we'll pause and talk about what we have to. Again, going through the goals, we want to, improve parking space turnover. Sorry?
I don't think people can hear you.
Okay. We basically want to restore healthy parking patterns in downtown, facilitate a cleaner, safer, more customer-friendly parking environment, encourage economic development, and also to provide a funding source to maintain and beautify, expand the parking system, and also, I guess, to more generally, the funds would flow to the general fund as well, and be
Right.
available for other purposes as well. A little parking meter history. There were parking meters in downtown Long Beach at one point in the 50s, removed in the 70s. We now have meters at the train station parking garage. We looked at a proposal in the West End that did not go forward. And here we are today in 2022, looking to reinstall parking meters in the downtown district. The current proposal is to institute a parking management plan between Lafayette and Monroe. We would look to promote the use of parking apps in addition to having the meter kiosks. And we would make provisions for employees to be able to park with an employee parking permit in certain designated sections. The next page shows the...
I'm sorry, when you say employees, you mean employees of the businesses?
Correct. Employees of the businesses that are in the downtown district. Yep. In the, where the meters are, in the district where the meters are. Yep, yes. So this, and the map shows, shows the pay zone, which is really centered on City Hall where we are right now, in the train station, and kind of equidistant 3 blocks in either direction along Park. We look at, when we talk about parking spaces, we basically have 3 classifications: transient parking, which is paid parking on a first-come, first-served basis. We have permit parking, which would be designated and/or discounted parking for downtown employees and commuters. And then there are free parking spaces, which we're going to get into a little later, about quick in and out parking stalls, 10, 15-minute stalls. Handicap stalls we're also proposing would be no charge to park in handicap stalls. Transient parking, the current proposal that we've analyzed, we have paid parking in effect all days between 9 a.m. and 11 p.m. The time limits that we have, and you'll see 2-hour limit spaces and 4-hour limit spaces, they would be in effect between 9 and 5. After 5 p.m., the time limits would fall off, so that anyone who's in the area for dinner or movie and dinner, they don't have to worry about time limits after 5 p.m. We're talking about having a license plate-based system, which is the way the industry has moved, so it makes enforcement a lot easier through license plate recognition, and encourage the use of the parking app. So you'd be able to use the app or one of 36 meter kiosks that would be conveniently located throughout the study area. City resident discount would be available by registering your vehicle in the system, and this would allow residents a 50% discount at the parking meters. Permit parking would be in effect all days between 9 and 11 where permitted, and again, they'd be digital in nature, so the vehicle's license plate would act as the permit. It would be, it's called digital permits. So the number of spaces in the pay zone totals 1,350. We have a breakdown classification here. Approximately 497 would be e-permits, or for daily parking or unlimited time limit parking. Then we have 2-hour limit, 4-hour limit, 1-hour limit, 30-minute, and 10-minute. Now, just a quick note, the 1-hour limit, 30-minute limit, and 10-minute limit spaces are currently what we have out there today. And I've assumed that over the years, certain provisions have been made for certain stores or types of stores along block sides that have prompted these 1-hour limit and 30-minute limitations. So for the time being, we're assuming that they are going to carry through into the final program. There will be an opportunity to give this a closer look as we move forward to defining the final program, but it would be good to have the vendor on board to help assist us in making those determinations.
Joe, I'm sorry. The map here, does it show the number of spots? I'm trying to correlate, you know, you have C areas and stuff like that. Is there any reference to the number of spots in each of these areas?
I do have that.
I know you have number of spots with limits, but it
Right.
doesn't say
Those
where
are the
they
totals, yeah.
Right,
But
yeah.
for each block side, I do have a map that indicates that, and I do have an electronic version of it, but yeah, this, yeah.
What I handed out, it might be too small for you.
This was sent on the 13th. This has,
Yeah, but it doesn't designate
It
necessarily
says
the number of
existing
them.
conditions.
Right,
Oh.
right, which is what.
does it have my little hand
no.
notes there? Yeah.
This one does not.
Okay.
So can we get this one?
Yes.
Follow up with it?
Yep. $113.21. You might have it in your inbox. If not, I can get you the electronic copy. Yes, we do have that broken down.
It says existing conditions, but does that mean the new parking program with the existing layout?
Well, this is giving you, correct, so this is where, this is the time designation, so this will be 2-hour parking, this will be,
Okay,
so
so
it sort of lays.
it's kind of yeah, I was confused,
But
okay.
it's based upon, what he's saying is it's based upon the existing conditions of there's 30-minute parking here,
Okay.
there's which
So,
may
for
or may not.
example, there's 10-minute parking in front of the post office.
10-minute parking in front of the post office, in front of Max Bialys, it's 30 minutes.
Okay.
Whereas most of the other curbside, it's 2 hours. And it's not just Max, it's the pizza place, it's.
Right.
So there was, at some point in time, the presumption is those businesses requested a shorter time limit in order to induce some turnover, is the assumption. But in enacting this, as we move forward with it, we would take a closer look, make sure that what is currently out there is still viable and is still desirable. Because you don't want to make it overly patchworky. You want a system that everybody's going to understand. So there's conversations to be had after we get a vendor on board about it.
And also, one thing that I feel strongly about that's been very successful in other towns is the ability to still put a quarter in and purchase just 10 minutes or, whatever the increment may be. To purchase small amounts of parking just for a quick in and out trip or to pick up a pizza or something like that. And the meters will have the ability to do that.
So in the meter, you put the quarter in and you dial in your license plate? Is that how it works?
Correct.
Oh,
Yep.
I hope you hit it right.
Yeah. Well, the enforcement, actually, the license plate readers have what's called fuzzy logic, I believe they call it, where if you're one digit or one letter off, it would typically accept it. So, the chances of that happening in this area and that machine, that you have one digit off or one letter off, is so great that they allow it to go through as a paid
Nice.
transaction.
Nice for people like me.
So moving on to enforcement.
Can I just, before we move on, have you done any kind of analysis on the way the time limits for the parking have been distributed in terms of, if you have a business where somebody may be spending more than 2 hours there, there's parking that goes beyond 2 hours. For example, I'm looking at the movie theater. So almost all the parking around the movie theater is 2 hours, with the exception of the center median, which is 4. So if you're going to a movie, which means you're likely to be in there more than 2 hours, the only place you could park is that center median. There's 4 theaters in there. That little one side of the center median is not enough parking for 4 movie theaters.
Well, and I think increasingly what we have looked at is, if we go the full uniformity approach, which I'm not necessarily advocating, I think you need to look at programming that's happening on each individual block. But I think the general rule of thumb is we are looking at curbside being like the 2-hour parking. And there might be some areas where, current conditions dictate that they really want the 30 minutes, and maybe that makes sense. We need to have that discussion with the vendor. We need to have that discussion with our police department. The center malls, essentially where we have shaken out at this stage of the game, is that it will be almost unlimited parking. If the hours of programming are, at least for this discussion until we get a few pages deeper, if it's from 9 a.m. until 11 p.m. is the pay period, you want to park your car at 9 a.m. and pay until 11 p.m., you can do that.
John, currently, aren't the curbs 2 hours?
Curbs are 2 hours.
The center is 2 hours, isn't it?
The centers are, he might be saying, some of them are longer. Some of them, I believe there are some that are 4 hours. But that is one of the challenges right now, though, as enforcement has become more uniform. We've been hearing a lot of our businesses say their employees are having to run out and move their cars every 2 hours.
Like Tom says, if you go to a movie like Spider-Man, you're screwed.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I'm not sure where you park if you go into a movie.
Well, that's what the center medians is where you would go.
4 hours in the center.
But it's not right. Where you're looking at 4 hours, what we're talking about is basically unlimited. You can park there for as long as you want, and you just have to feed the meters during the hours that the meters are operating.
So we're not going to enforce 4 hours.
Correct.
So why are we
That's
calling
where
it-
this is shaken out a little bit since that map. That map is from January of last year. What was it, your date on it? So that's why this has evolved as we've talked this through with.
No, what he said is you're not going to enforce it. You're going to enforce it, if I understood what you said, you're going to enforce it. You can just keep feeding the meter.
Correct.
So it is going to be enforced, but you can park there all day, but you just got to.
You got to keep paying for while the meter's in
Right,
operation.
but right now, we're showing it as a 4-hour time limit.
On
What we're
that
saying, what
map,
I'm
yes.
hearing now is it's not going to be a 4-hour time limit, so
Yeah.
this is,
I
this
mean,
is,
in my experience, a 4-hour time limit that drops off at 5 PM can work,
Yeah.
would work. Because for a matinee, I believe 4 hours would be enough. For a salon appointment where someone's getting a perm or needs extra work, 4 hours is typically enough. And that's to, again, promote the turnover of that space. There are spaces in that center median that are shown with the red E, that would be employee permits, that you can, if they're not filled with employee permits, you could also purchase up to 12 hours in that spot during the day. So we can just make the center malls, all 12-hour limit, or we can go with the plan that I originally proposed to have 4-hour limit in the center malls up until 5 o'clock, and employee spaces, and 12-hour spaces.
But if the 4 hours is up, can't I just go on the app and add 4 more hours?
Yes.
We're in
But the license plate readers will know that you haven't moved, so.
So I can't do it then?
We could do it however we want. John's solution is, that he described, is very simple. In the center medians, there's no time limit. You could purchase whatever amount of time you wish to purchase.
I'm about churn, so I like the idea of 4 hours. And then I just go on my phone and add more time.
But he's saying you can't?
You can.
No, if you're doing the 4 hours, you got to move your car.
Oh, that's the
So he's
point.
saying you can't.
yeah, what we don't want to do is set up another situation where we say something and then there's no enforcement of it because it's inconvenient. We want,
Well,
The enforcement piece is easy in this system because, so when you say there's not going to be an enforcement, all we do is drive by with the plate reader and we'll be able to identify any car that's been in the spot for more than 4 hours.
no, I get what you're saying. What I'm saying is, we got to decide, right now, we're showing there is a 4-hour time limit on these. The question is that adequate for some of the businesses that would be using that?
So it's adequate for the customers,
In
but
my experience, a 5 or 6 hour parking duration is very rare.
yeah.
You're going to find 85% of the parking durations are going to be less than 2 hours.
You've never done a happy hour in Long Beach, apparently.
Well, after 5 PM, after 5 PM, after 5, all time limits
But
are.
I think but the thing is that you can't customize everything for everyone. So there's going to have to be a little give and take here of what's a reasonable amount, and then we adjust from there. Because even when it gets launched, it's still not going to be 100% perfect, so we're going to still make modifications. So of course we want it to be perfect when we launch it, but it's still going to change. And we can't customize everything for everyone.
So, just to throw this out, just think of it this way, as a council, what's the culture you want to set for the city? That's it. If you want people to be able to park for 4 hours and then a turnover of that spot, then you do that. If you don't care if there's a turnover for the spot and you just want to make the spots available for people who want to pay for the money, then do that. It depends on the culture that you want to set. This system can do anything that you want it to do. It can adjust to whatever culture you want to set for the city. That's the way you should try to think about it.
So let me just again, seeing this now in the big, so if you go down between like Laurelton and Lafayette, right? So in the center median there, a sizable chunk of the center median is for employees, presumably the Lancer people, and then you kind of evenly distribute 4-hour spots on either end of the median. At the west end, at Lafayette, there's nothing down there. there's the mobile station, there's no reason anyone would park down there.
Dairy barn.
But at the opposite end, it's not called Dairy Barn anymore, by the way, it's the Keg now or something. But at the other end, where CVS and the Laurel Diner is, that's a high-traffic area. So you need more spots at the east end of that lot to turn over, and at the west end of that lot, it's mostly gonna be the Lancer people.
Yeah, I mean, 100%, and that's what, you even look at the boulevards. So if you go down Laurelton, that block south of Park Avenue, it's not the same throughout the business district, but that block in particular, largely because of the Laurel Diner, those are all prime spots for that business. Whereas you're 100% correct, across from Lancer, that's where you want all of your Laurel employees and all of your CVS employees to park in addition to the Lancer employees. So I would think that entire half will end up being employee parking, and the entire half that is on the eastern side of that island will end up being customer parking.
That may be perfectly fine.
And that's part of the walking and talking roadshow that I've been doing, and that's part of when we engage a vendor, the real nitty gritty that you roll up into. I mean, and I know I've spoken with Alan at the Laurel Cleaners. He's got, if you give him his 2 spots for in and out, and that's the only real business there, the rest of it can be employees, so that can eat up some of, the Laurelton as well. So, like I said, you don't want to cater to every little business that is there, because there's not a whole lot of permanency to that, and it's going to evolve over time. But you still want to, when this thing hits Jump Street, you want to be able to have it reasonably, as uniformly as possible, reasonably reflect the type of activities and programming that happen at those intersections in those areas. So there is an ability. Whereas really difficult is essentially from National, or really even more Edwards to Long Beach Boulevard. That's just tight, no matter how you cut it. Those spots are full, just about all day, every day. With the movie theater opening, thank goodness, it has the flip side of it exacerbates that issue even more. Because certainly the movie theater doesn't have enough spots in its lot north of the theater itself.
So let me ask another question too. With the center malls, where most of them have 2 between, 2 of the boulevards, one is being dedicated for employees, one for customers. Why do it that way rather than do half and half in each? Because now, if somebody's going to a business on the, let's say, the west end of that strip, but they have to park at the east end, we're making them walk a block, versus if we kind of do half employee, half turnover spots in each. It's the same number of spots that you're giving to employees and park, but now you're not making somebody walk a block to get to a business.
Well, we were aiming to just do every other one, just to create a rhythm. And, really the walking distance, it's maybe another 100 feet, just to be in, the next section over.
Spoken like
Also,
a young person.
Well, also, signage would be a lot simpler, knowing that this section is for employees, for employee permits, the next section is for 4-hour limit. The number of signs will be reduced, this way, rather than having them split up. So it was the solution that we came up with, but we could certainly, break them apart more, in the fashion that you mentioned.
Well, I guess, what comes to mind is and we don't have as many businesses like that, it would be more pertinent, I guess, if we had a supermarket or something that would be using these, is if somebody's carrying bags, a lot of bags and bulky things, or quite frankly, elderly people, we don't want to make them have to walk too far, especially if they don't have a handicapped placard.
You've never lived in the city, John?
What city?
New York City. Walk.
That's where I grew up.
Oh, walk. You always walk with your bags, and you have your cart.
But people don't do that around here.
Yes, they do.
John, I agree with you. For a couple of signs, let's give the residents some convenience.
Well, I'm just saying, something you should consider.
On Park Avenue, where folks park on the north side of the street during the day, are there going to be any metered parking there?
Sorry, say that again?
So on Park Avenue, on the north side, adjacent to the Stop and Shop parking lot, people park during the day. I don't know why, but they do. What? They park there for free all day, right? Oh, I didn't know, I never knew you could park there.
Those
Well,
are
you
permit
can't, but they
spaces.
do.
Yeah, R3.
And it's free, right?
That's legal. She's saying no, yeah.
So,
Yeah, they would be.
So
they-
all-
I believe in our plan, they're proposed to be permit spaces.
like, for businesses?
We have them right now as employee permits, and no parking 6 AM to 9 AM, which is an existing restriction. You could get commuters that pull in those spaces today
Right.
after
Yeah.
9 o'clock and park for free.
Everybody in the morning basically sits in their car till about 8:55 and jumps right out of their car, shoots straight for the railroad, and that's where they stay for the rest of the day.
Now they'll have to buy a commuter permit and park in the garage.
But, and nobody parks there on the weekend, right? Right now?
I mean, it's available, but no one, it's
No one
utilized
generally-
mostly during the railroad peak times.
Okay.
I walk to work every day, so.
And again, there will be opportunity to, to fine tune this program, again, with the vendor to help us and, with determining the splits between employee 4-hour, 2-hour, and so forth. And, again, this is not the final plan. This is a plan that, based on my experience, I think can work, based on what we've studied and our observations that we think can work. Will there be some adjustments in the first year or so afterwards to, make any modifications? Of course there will. There always are in parking programs. So we have to go in with our eyes open that we are going to be making some adjustments over time for sure. So I'm going to quickly jump back to the PowerPoint unless we want to continue talking about the regulations, or we could get into some of the...
What's most useful for the council? I mean, are you guys familiar enough with this that you'd rather skip to the end and go over what's new? Do you want to review this?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'd like
I
to
would
hear
like
about
to
it.
stop there.
I'd like to hear about it.
I vote for stopping, but everyone else wants to hear. Okay.
Well, how long will it take?
Years.
Oh. Okay. Let's see where we are when we're done then. We don't want
So just as you go
Roy
through
falling
this,
asleep on us.
before you get in, he just added a few other slides on other rates that you see. He added a few more of the short communities that were more pertinent on Long Island, rate structuring year-round, Roslyn, Huntington, Patchogue are all at $1, Rockville Center, Bay Shore, 75 cents an hour. And then I think, well, actually, so the primary things that, as I've been doing my Human Road Show, trying to hit up as many businesses as I can, sometimes by surprise, sometimes by setting up meetings.
Before that, just the rate structure, just...
Well, I mean, that's, so if you want to, do you want him to go
I
through?
just wanted to ask one question.
Yeah, sure, of course, go for it.
I noticed the short communities. I know some of these communities, the parking is right at the beach. Is that generally the story on these, $10 an hour? I assume that's the beach parking. Or $10 for 2 hours?
No, East Hampton and Sag Harbor, in fact, those are in their downtown districts. That's what the fees are for parking.
But they do have lots on the beach, don't they? If I remember correctly.
I believe those are just permit parking for residents. That's not, you can't pay a meter and park in a beach in East Hampton or Sag Harbor. The other shore community, the reason I put this slide and the next slide back to back, this is peak season in the shore communities. They charge a higher fee in the summer. And then on Long Island, we have these year-round rate structuring for downtown districts with restaurants and so forth. We're unique because we're kind of a hybrid of the two. We're a seasonal community with an influx in the summer, but we're also a downtown district with businesses and restaurants and everything that are active all year long. So I was trying to find a balance between this peak season and all year round activity. And I think we landed on a rate structure where we have June, July, and August, the rates are higher than the remainder of the year. Yeah. And that was kind of the rationale in putting the rate structure together. So the rate structures that we analyzed, A through D, start out with Long Beach. A is the highest rate structure, and D is the lowest rate structure. And you can see the top two lines of what Long Beach residents would be paying. The first line, what they'd be paying during the 9 months of the year, would be $1 an hour for rate structure A, 75 cents. And that $1.75 is what we see, again, in Huntington, in Patchogue, in Bayshore, in Roslyn. So that's in line with what's on Long Island today. We go down to rate structures C and D, and we're down to 50 cents per hour for the residents. Now, in the peak season, June, July, August, those rates would double. For non-residents, the rates are higher than for the residents. They're twice as high. And that's where we see the hourly rate of $2, $1.50, $1, and $1, A through D. And then, of course, in the peak season, that's where we have the peak of $4 an hour for non-residents, $3 an hour rate structure B, $2 in C, and $1.50 in D.
I think there was a question on what the administrative fee or what the fee would be in order to register your car as a resident. What's baked into this, I believe, is $25 a year. So you go to the clerk's office the same way you do for the commuter pass. You would do your valid form of ID, whether it's
You couldn't do that online?
Yeah, why couldn't we do that through the app?
We could
So
look at it.
you're doing is giving your license number.
If you can do your license number as your car is registered in, that could be. I mean, but we need to have the vendor at the table to vet that out. But I imagine
My son could fix that up.
Is there any way to make the summer rate flat with the non-summer rate for seniors?
We could definitely put a senior rate in with the system that we have. If you show proof of age as a senior, yes, we could have another rate classification for seniors.
Now that I'm getting older, I don't know what a senior is anymore, so.
What is it?
62.
It depends.
I was gonna say it depends.
AARP says it's 50.
50, I know.
No, you can join AARP at 50.
50. So if in the year you turn 62 or whatever we decide, like Social Security, 66 and 5/8 or whatever, you can make it flat. I mean, I think that would be something to hit the target residents, that are most impacted by a lot of stuff that's going on.
We have a definition of seniors for beach passes, right? So we'd have to just make it consistent.
62.
See?
And that's senior residents, correct?
Yeah. And that was my next question. is a city resident determined by whether or not their car is registered to a Long Beach address?
That's a good question.
Thank you.
That's what, I mean, but that's what, if you're doing it, and that's, we have to go through the vendor on what the possibility is, but if you were doing it in an online scenario, then yeah, your car needs to be registered showing Long Beach. But if that's not the case, and I know we do that for a number of other things, you come to the table with, here's my current, my bill, lease, water bill, because my car, we're a transient enough population, it's under your name, it matches your license.
So here's my bill for my illegal apartment.
Well, that raises an issue. What do we do for people who, their home here is their second home? Are they a resident?
Well, if their car is registered, that could be administratively easier, right? But I had a neighbor whose car was registered in Vermont and lived and had an address here.
Right, but if this is their summer home, are they a resident?
You would have a tax bill or a lease that you could show.
Because we have a lot of people that have, you know,
2 homes,
two
yeah.
homes.
3 homes.
So we have to. Right.
Yeah, the tax bill.
Well,
I mean, if they
whatever.
pay taxes here, they're a
The
resident.
car would not have to be registered here to be a resident. You would have to show a tax bill or, some other proof of residence.
I mean, for the beach passes, Joe, for the beach passes, don't we, if somebody has this as a second home, they have to bring like a utility bill or something, right? Because their driver's license may have somewhere else.
It's a means for them to pay for it. If you're purchasing a beach pass or a car parking pass, they come to see the city clerk or the beach park officer, they bring proof of a tax bill and a current utility bill.
Right.
And their driver's license then links the 3 of them, and they're a resident entitled to
The interesting.
The community resident parking permit, the registered owner of the vehicle has to show a tax bill. Right. It's not just, either Brother Charles or whoever.
Okay.
Well,
The registered owner of the vehicle has to match.
all of this is programmable, so whatever is, customary for other municipalities, especially beach communities, would really probably be instructive as a foundation, and then you would tweak from there.
And I would just say, with respect to, part-time residents, whatever, it's likely not worth it for them to even do it. If you're only in town for 3 months of the summertime and you're gonna go downtown twice a month for that for a couple hours, it's not gonna cost you $25 a year to pay the meter, so.
Yeah, I mean, we have a lot of snowbirds too.
Yeah. But I
So
will,
they're
we'll
here
take-
half the year.
I would also like to know the total revenue that we're forfeiting by offering employee discounted parking. So because we're basically subsidizing sectors of the community by offering this discounted employee parking, is that correct? Yes.
Well, I mean, it depends on how you look at it. I mean, so we're implementing paid parking where it did not exist, and that is to have the users pay for it and not the 35,000 residents of the city, some of which don't ever use it.
Right.
You also don't want to be punitive towards any population that is impacted, and you have some business owners that they would feed the meter all day long, don't really care how much it is. I've had one business owner say, tell me what I have to pay you so that I never have to feed a meter. Give me, what's the unlimited pass for the year? I'll pay it.
Right.
It doesn't make a difference to me. It's all about convenience. I can afford it. But that same business owner has people in the back of the kitchen washing dishes, making less than minimum wage, where if you're going to bang that person, and I promise you, this is, most of these businesses I've spoken with, the employees are paying for the employee pass, not the business owner. And that's why in this iteration, we've scaled it back a little bit for what the initial cost was, because you don't want to, most of the employees are not making big bucks, and they have to park here. So, I mean, it's not their choice to go shopping in downtown Long Beach. They have to park here. So we need a system that ensures that this isn't a fraudulent system where these things can become a black market.
Right.
That they're paying a meaningful amount to contribute towards what the city's overall costs are to maintain our parking structures, but not so much to a point where it's going to become punitive for them and we are biting into their work week in meaningful amount in terms of passes and makes the job less attractive.
I just think it's an important number in an analysis that we know, that we're aware of.
Yeah, you know, the other part of it is management, is parking management.
Yeah.
These are going to be regular parkers. If it becomes punitive in terms of the, you know, the amount they have to pay, we might be starting to push some into the neighborhoods outside of the pay zone. So that's what we talk about management. If we make it fair, you know, if we make it fair enough for them to afford it, of course they, you know, we don't want them walking, you know, long distances after their shift or whatever. So, you know, because they're an important part of the downtown parking population, you know, we try to manage them in this fashion. That it's typically done like that that employee permits are discounted over paying the meter every day.
That's what the Long Island Railroad is learning that right now.
What was the, oh, here we have it.
Yeah, right now, they're programmed at $200 a year or $125 from May 1st to September 30th. And those can be prorated also.
I guess to John's point about the guy that's, or the person, doesn't have to be a guy, washing dishes, making less than minimum wage. If coming up with $125 is a problem, is there a way they can pay in installments or pay, you know?
Well, one of the other, so that's a question, but one of the other runs that we've asked Jerry to do that was kind of a late comer on this, so it's not baked into this, so we went $100 for the employees for the year, $75 for a seasonal. So if you were just for the summer, you know, and then, I mean, it could be, they could do an arrangement with their employer, or we can look at solutions of how to do it.
They could be reimbursed by their employer. So they could bring their, you know, the receipt in.
Yeah, no,
and
I get that, but he was saying he's here and the employers ain't doing it.
Right. No, but I mean, there's only so much, you know, $100 for a year.
No, that's not unreasonable.
It's just if that's where we end up and that does not impact the revenue stream in a significant way, was at least what our conversation was on it. It still makes it meaningful to where these things don't become a black market. We'll still have to put in some safeguards to where we understand approximately how many employees a business have. So if in our ranks we see employer A who told us in the peak season they have 50, now all of a sudden there's 80. Then we got to go back and look and say, all right, you need to scrub, you know, and if we get a new employee come in from them mid-year, we say, oh, go to that employer and say, okay, who came off the books?
Again, making that fee-based is more about management and not about the pro forma. You know, if you look at one of the pro formas, you know, a couple of pages back, you'll see the line item for employee permit parking is about $85,000 a year compared to, you know, $7 million in revenue. It's not driving the revenue.
No.
You know, it's more for parking space management.
You know, you mentioned management, and I'm sure as Joe Brand can tell you from the electronic passes, managing a system like this is a lot of work. So who from the staff is going to do that?
Well, so there are.
It's not just the vendor. When you're managing a system, you need staff, expertise, and analysis.
Well, there are a couple of options. So we have the public-private partnership, where it 100% would be the vendor.
Yes.
That really manages. I mean, PD manages their component of things, but it would be. I mean, would you mind talking a little bit more in depth of what the triple T?
Yep. So the way that the RFP was structured is that you know, the vendor would you know, would pay for the entire installation and integration of the system and would operate the system for the first 5 years. During those 5 years, There's going to be a full-time parking manager. There's going to be a full-time meter maintenance person, and they are going to do all the report generation and submission to, to the city, certain reports as required. What's nice about that structure is that there will be interaction with city, well, certainly with police department, who's going to provide the enforcement piece of it, but also with the finance department, with the clerk's office, in terms of all the reporting, because the revenue reporting and deposits and everything are, as you said, it's an important component of this program. So there will be some city resources that are going to be allocated to this, but not to the extent if we took it all on ourselves. The vendor will be able to work out all the integration of the systems, the license plate numbers. There's a lot of data flying around here. The data, the communications, and all of that needs to be integrated so they all talk to each other. That's a big task that they will be able to do. I mean, that's what their expertise is. So they'll be doing that for the first 5 years and, fine-tuning it over time. After that 5-year period, we have the option of either outsourcing them to do it for another 5 years, or we could take over the operation ourselves if we feel that, they have it to a point where they could just hand it off.
I think conversely, if it's just the bonding, paying for it up front, owning the system, we would still, baked into that too, is still, we need somebody that runs the sort of service part of the operation, so that's baked into what, it's not the day-to-day, as intensive of the day-to-day management, it's not having a full-time maintenance person on staff. They would still, we would still have a service contract with them where they would be liable for coming to service any equipment that goes bad, should it. But, it's not that same intensivity, but we would have to cover those components through a service agreement.
What about the public education component?
We would, the P3 initiative has them doing a heavy lift of that, having people come, canvas, speak with all the business owners. Should we not go that direction, and should we just go to the straight outright purchase from our start point, then it's on the city to do that campaign. They would still help with it, but they're not as invested in the same way, and they're not putting as much resources into it.
They're going to promote the heck out of the app because it means that they're collecting less cash out of the machines. The less cash handling that we have, the more efficient the operation is. So they are going to promote the heck out of the app, and we would too if we were to hire someone to outsource the operation or did it ourselves.
I would ask Jerry, could you just go through, I know Roy had a question at one of the last meetings that we had about not including in the financial projections like the avoidance factor of you're now charging for something, and if I'm mischaracterizing or missing the point of your question, correct me, please. But there's a certain, we have our counts. We said this, how many people are counting here in inventory on any given day or any given month. And then we do the model for what the revenue projection is going to be. But I think Roy was questioning whether you captured, the assumption is less people are going to park where you are now charging for something where you previously charged.
Well, the different price structure.
Right.
There was no elasticity of demand by the price structures. But you know what, to be honest, John, when I look at the alternatives, if they're taking care of it, it's not really, our concern if they're right. Mm-hmm. When I look at this and I say, even at the lowest, we get, with everything, we get $2.3 million. My question is, though, that's their estimate. How are we?
It's Jerry's estimate. He works for us.
Yes.
Yeah. How are we protected on that? Are they going to give us any assurance of performance?
So I would flip that, I think, and Jerry, correct me if I'm wrong here too, but they don't make the money if they don't perform. So it's, and it depends how the negotiation will need to take place, and what's the profit sharing agreement, and I think Jerry's gotten into the weeds with them to some degree, where they've at least conceptually bought into some stuff, but they're not you know, if they're turning it over to us after a 5-year period, they've got to make that money within 5 years. That initial $2.6 million outlay that they're investing.
But when they were talking, taking the 70%, we get the 30, and if we still are getting 2.3 with the 30 at the lowest, that's fine. I just, you know what, I think that's, listen, I'm not an expert in it. I think it's a very ambitious number, but, you know, that's what I'm saying. You know, I'm not asking for a warranty. I'm asking for some
Yep.
assurance of performance.
Ray, I agree with you. I think it's ambitious, but I'm thinking that they're the billion-dollar worldwide company, and if they're willing to invest in us, there's got to be a win in here for them. So I think they've done all the financial modeling to show that this is a slam dunk for them.
But if you're getting 70%, it depends. If they say, hey, guys, we're guaranteeing you
Right.
2.3 under these circumstances, you know, and if we go, if you get more than that, we get an extra vig, I'll be totally okay with that. But if they, you know, if the 2.3 turns out to be, well, you know, only $1 million comes in and they're taking 70% of that, you know, then we're stuck, we get 300,000 for what we thought, you know, that's.
Well, the 2.3 is not a guarantee.
Right.
It will never be a guarantee. That's their best assumption of what we get. So if we only get in $1 million, if it only brings in $1 million, we get 300, we still got 300. Nobody's gonna give you a guarantee that this model will bring in $2.3 billion.
But they have some sort of basis for this 2.3.
Yeah, it's
And
their
that's
best
what,
assumption
but
that
that's,
based on the numbers.
Let's be clear again, this is our consultants, this is not them, but they're relying upon this analysis and their own internal analysis, and they're still at the table with us.
but they're not, but are they talking, Jerry, they're still talking, taking the top 70%?
Well, what happens is they take the top 70% until they've recouped their initial investment, their capital investment.
However, 5 years, 10 years, however long it takes.
Well,
Payback time is short here, 13, 14 months.
Yes, yes. And I'm pretty confident in these projections. We think that their capital recovery period is going to be somewhere between 13 months and at the high end, 2 years. Because, you know, that 70% is a large share. As soon as they hit that point, as soon as they recover their capital, and that's where the monitoring comes in, it flips. So now the city is going to be, I believe it's 80-20 until that 5-year period is over. After the 5-year period, then it's 100% the city.
So the first 5 years, I'm sorry, the 5-year period where it flips, you say, you mean once they get their money during the 5-year period?
Correct.
Okay.
So if the payoff, let's split the baby. So if their recovery period, they get back their initial outlay after 18 months.
Yes.
It goes from them getting 70 and us getting 30 to us getting 80 and them getting 20 for the remainder of the 5 years. So for the next 3.5 years, while we have that agreement with them until they sell us the system for $1, we get the 80%, they get the 20%.
So
They're still operating it.
They're willing to operate the system and take care of everything for 20% once they're paid. So why wouldn't they do that for the second 5 years?
Is it 80-20 or 75?
They might. We could enter into an outsourcing agreement with them after the first 5 years. We'll see how the relationship has matured to that point, but that would be an option.
I think a lot of these things can be addressed at the negotiating table in terms of reopeners, conditions subsequent, things of that nature when they're actually at the table with them.
This says it's a 75-25 split.
Yeah, because after that point, at the 5-year mark, and we get the 100%, then we would either have to consider that or operate it.
Right.
But you might be able to negotiate it 80-20.
We already have.
Yeah.
We have correspondence with them that we're already at 80-20.
So this says.
This one says 75-25.
Right, but I'm saying that, he was just saying that, whatever it is, it can be negotiated at the table. I think what you're trying to do is determine whether you're gonna hire, to put on the agenda to hire the vendor, correct?
And what other burning questions does this council need in order to be, that we can answer, that you are comfortable enough to potentially say yes to this?
Better put, do you have any outstanding questions about the parking system that are just eating at you to make an informed decision if and when the time comes, right, based on the information you've received so far? Anything, any questions that are killing you?
Yes.
There you go.
Okay, it's for Ron. Ron, what will this cost the city, even if they're handling it? I don't want to see, I'm not talking about what you're going to get for parking violations and all that, because that's figured in here. What will it cost the city to enforce this?
That's baked in
We're
here,
going to
too.
be hiring at least 4 more special officers to do enforcement. That's supposed to come out of the proceeds of the actual program. We're going to be purchasing 2 vehicles with license plate readers on them and the computers that go in it. That'll come out of the cost of the program. So,
I'm sorry, when you say the cost of the program,
in other words, the monies that are taken in, those bills will be paid out of the revenue generated from this program.
from our share, our 30%, or their 70%? So it's a cost?
Not the cars. The cars will be out of their share.
Okay.
But the personnel costs will come out of our share.
All right, so
That's a direct
that's what
cost
I'm
of
trying to get, the cost. I don't care where, whatever it comes
What
from.
I haven't really included is whether or not, and the reason I didn't include this, because I don't know, is if we're gonna need a second person in our traffic office to start to deal with the influx of. The more summonses, there's gonna be a lot more boots, because with that, when you have that type of information out there, you're gonna get more booting out there, you're gonna get more fines out there, so, I mean, no matter what we do, just having those 2 cars out there and the program paying for those 2 cars, if you're looking at this from a revenue generation standpoint, it's gonna bring in revenue.
I'm looking at it as a cost. I'm looking at it, if it goes bad, if, we only bring in 100,000, our 30% is only 100,000, let's say. Do we lose money? If it's 300,000, how much do we make? I'm just trying to get a handle on what our costs in the city. I know their costs, they're doing a lot of the stuff, they're taking care of a lot of the equipment.
Speaking hypothetically, because we don't know what we don't know, right?
Well, you know how many people you would be hiring, and you know what equipment you would use under this present scenario.
So the equipment comes out of there, so there's no equipment that I have to pay for, that comes out of there.
That's nice.
The
Good,
personnel
yeah.
costs.
Yes.
Will be maybe around 60, 250,000 a year.
That includes the benefits?
Includes benefits.
That's
approximately.
That's what we have in the line item here.
Yeah.
There's
Well, that was
a
pretty good
list
then.
of city expenses in
Yeah.
here.
I learned something while I was here. Yeah, about $250,000 of personnel costs, but if we don't get double that in fines, I'd be shocked.
Yeah.
And that is, that's in the pro forma.
But the fines are in here, too.
Correct.
What did you put
Yeah.
in the fines, because I haven't seen the updated?
Income
$1 million.
from fines is,
I wouldn't doubt it.
well, we start off in mature 624,000 a year.
Right, so I guess that at least $500,000. So, because you're not going to whack people or enforce it as heavily, won't use the word whack, in the beginning. You ease your way into how you start to do the enforcement. So you start in the first few months, warning tags, stuff like that. The most egregious people get tickets. And then you start to build on becoming more strictly enforced.
Jerry, when you do a program like this, do you notice a shift in modes of transportation, like buses and bicycles? Are you projecting any sort of shift?
Yeah, we have a ramp. We say that that your mature revenue and your mature projections are not going to happen until year 3, because there are going to be some shifts in parking behavior as a result of the meters. But over time, those fade away.
They go back.
So we do have that little ramp, I think, where we're typically 2/3 of mature in year one, then we're about 80% of mature in year three, in year two, and then by year three, we're close to 100% mature revenue. The patterns have returned to what they once were.
But now we have the transit-oriented development on top of it.
The bigger project is still down the road from here. I mean, what you saw the other night was some safety improvements in and around the multimodal and City Hall. That's not going to, in and of itself, make people more comfortable biking on Park Avenue or anything along those lines. So I wouldn't factor that specific project in there. The next one that is being discussed is the bigger one that might
Broadway or down West?
Might move the needle on that one. Whichever was it came up for somebody said the other day.
Yes.
That's that one, yes.
Well, not necessarily a revenue issue. Is there a way to consider maybe within these incorporating bicycle racks and things into this plan to also facilitate not only the parking, but let's face it, if people that want to take bikes around here, it gets pretty tough to find a place to lock up your bike a lot of the time.
There's no reason why bicycle racks and things like that can't be factored into this.
Yeah, I mean,
As a cost.
there could be spots in the center
would come out
median,
of our
center
savings.
malls to, stick some bike racks in there too, let's.
But that would come out of the 70%. That wouldn't come out of the.
No, I'm
We
just
didn't ask
I'm
them
just
to
trying to
reimburse.
think bigger
We could,
picture.
But that just elongates.
I'm
their
just trying to
payback.
think bigger picture. If we're trying to modify behavior with the parking, this might be an opportunity to incorporate the bicycle component to it as well.
So we'd have to scope out where they would go and make sure it's on city property, it doesn't interfere with
There's a
parking.
bicycle rack on where the shoe repair used to be. That median?
Well, right now, we make it the responsibility of the business owner to put out bicycle racks. And some of them choose to, a lot, most do not. So, maybe there's, like I said, an opportunity for us here to,
Typically, that's coordinated with like a complete streets program.
Right.
With like bike lanes and things like that. That's outside of our area of expertise.
no,
so-
I'm not saying this isn't your necessarily, this is more of a city thing of, this might be an opportunity for us to throw some bike racks out there too, to make, make it a little easier for people to also take their bicycles.
You could make part of the program, just you're gonna allocate a certain amount of the money that the city takes in to do just that without putting it into the program. So you could say.
What I would say is that we make it two separate. What we do is that if we want to do additional bike racks, we look at how much it will cost the city to put bike racks in, which has absolutely nothing to do with parking.
Right.
So if we want to do bike racks
Right.
now, we look at how much it's gonna cost us. to
It's
do bike-
complementary.
Right. How much we're gonna do bike racks now, and then that's a cost to the city, which absolutely has nothing to do with parking.
Correct.
Nothing to do with that.
Other burning questions?
Yeah, I have a few.
Yeah, my question is, it's unfortunately,
Sorry.
yeah. Sorry, Ray.
Sorry, Ray.
You're free, Ray. You're free.
Bye. They're not gonna get to you, it's after 9. You can go, you and Joe can go. Yeah, because we're just talking parking.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Good night.
What now?
And again, I'm guilty of this too, but if the issue is parking, then it becomes bicycles and buses and walking. So, that's why, to me, bicycles is part of the equation. And that one of the solutions to parking is other modes of transportation. And I feel that hopefully we can do some more to that effect, right?
You're completely right.
Right.
Jen, and it's something that we've neglected for so long. I remember 20 years ago working on it with Len Torres,
Really?
And we've gotten really nowhere with the bikes and
Well,
stuff.
and then the scooters, I know the scooters are kind of dangerous, but like DC, they have them everywhere, right?
Yeah.
Like.
Most cities
and,
now.
Yeah,
you know.
I should be biking here, like tonight, and how, because there's no more space for cars.
But you know what, and Donna, I think you were just saying, bike lanes 20 years ago, you know. But we could theoretically allocate some of the money that Ron's going to pull in.
No, well, I defer to Donna.
Yeah.
You got it.
Well,
In
I
terms
thought
of how
she
this
just had
programs
to-
work,
Yes.
it's up to Don.
Yeah.
Donna can advise the best way
Yes.
of how to do that. Well,
But
just
more
any other
than-
sort of.
more than
The
bike
allocation
racks.
of the
Like
money
this
that comes
program
in
is standalone. Anything else we have to consider?
Yeah, we'll look into it. We could look at the yeah, it could be part of it. We could start looking at bike racks now. We could look at the lanes now.
Yeah.
To see where else we can put lanes.
See, before you came here, a few years ago, we had a vendor that came in. This was before Sandy. Deco Bike, was that the name of it? Yeah. And they promised us bike lanes throughout the town if we let them rent bikes. And they set up a few things. They never got us the bike lanes, and Sandy came, and that was the end. And we never had a bike, franchise after that. But there was great promise at one point.
Yeah, just a few. Some of this, I could probably have asked this offline, but, the capital program for this, it includes 2 Ford Interceptor vehicles.
Mhm.
Those are hybrids. Is that going to take special training for our mechanics?
So the hybrid is what we put in. I don't know that we're going to buy the hybrid yet, because I was talking to some of my colleagues in the New York City, and they have a higher maintenance and breakdown rate. So I'm not so sure that we're at the hybrid state right now. So I've been working, whenever I order any vehicles, we work with the mechanics to see what platform they prefer us to stay on, so there's a commonality in parts, and then you're not having to train people to do multiple different platforms.
All right, because just I'm saying there's an expense to that, obviously, if we have to train our mechanic. The perimeter egress with the license plate readers, are they gated or just cameras?
Those are cameras.
Okay. Also, I guess part of the service was fine collection services. Do they get a percentage of that?
Yeah.
What-
So that would be in the contract and negotiated.
So that's yet to be negotiated?
Sorry, Jerry.
Typically, those costs are passed along as a service fee when you pay your parking ticket on.
So generally speaking, it's the same as the way we're doing it with our current vendor. They don't sell the debt, they basically collect the debt. They go out and do collections, they make extra efforts, they work with the credit reporting agencies and things like that, because you don't want to sell the debt, because then they don't have a right to come back to court necessarily, so it works in that way.
Yeah. All right. Just a couple more, I think. In the financial projections on that slide, they used 2 days from October in 2018, a Tuesday and a Friday. Was that the sole sample used, or were there other dates, and that's just representative?
Those were what we found to be typical. We did exhaustive counts on those 2 days.
Right.
We did spot counts on other days to verify, and we found that they were dependable.
Okay, so that was basically my question. I was going to ask you if that was an adequate sample size to
Yeah, no, we did.
say that's a.
We did do spot counts in subsequent months and times of the year as well to get these adjustments that
All
you
right,
see throughout the
so you
state.
feel that's representative?
Yeah.
Okay. In the financial projections, you have discount permit parkers included in the occupancy hours is 32% of total cars, and at Long Beach residents were 27.5% of total cars.
Right.
Just what's that based? Just that's an experience call, or?
Yes, it's based on, typical employee loads of, in a downtown parking demand pie chart, how many are employees, and we basically, you know, you're going to be pretty close to that amount, that,
So let me,
32%.
so this is why I was.
And then the residents were based on population and number of registered vehicles.
Does it matter that we're sort of, like if you look at Rockville Center, I'm just going to use that as an example. They're kind of in the middle, so people are coming in from all directions. We're kind of a dead-end street here. Does that matter as far as, you know, clearly we're a destination for the bars and things like that and the beach. But for businesses, you know, again, people kind of come in from Rockville Center from around. Not as, like I said.
Is our composition more resident than it is?
Yeah, I guess what I'm asking is our composition more resident than maybe we're taking credit for?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I have nieces and nephews that travel from all parts of Nassau and Suffolk County to come to Long Beach.
Okay.
So,
But they're basically coming for the bars.
I do see what you're saying, but I think that what you have here is such a strong draw.
Okay.
That, you know, I think we're going to be fine.
Okay, that was it for me.
The occupancy of your spaces tells the story. You know?
Anybody else?
Thank you very, very much.
Thank you. It's my
Yeah.
pleasure. Any follow-up, just let me know.
Good? Thanks, Dave.
Before we wrap, I know I've cycled out draft policies to the council on a number of occasions. I've gotten feedback from some members, not from all. I'll recycle them and send them out to everyone at the top of their inbox. 3 incoming, sounds familiar, right? Vehicle use, public communications. It's a petty cash policy also coming up, so.
Can you just,
They need to be.
We're just gonna, our goal is to start just throwing a
will
1
you
to
be
2.
sending them out without any comments you've received to date, so it'll still be the raw?
No, so what I'll be doing is the last email I think I sent was with comments and recommendations either integrated or addressed. So I'll send, so there was some questions in some of the
Because I mean,
comment fields.
I know I sent you a lot of comments.
You did, and some of the stuff was very helpful, and I use that for integration. Other stuff, I have explanations in there as to maybe why I didn't integrate something.
Okay,
But I'll give you some
I
feedback.
don't think you sent us that yet. I don't recall seeing that.
Yeah, I'm going to send that tonight at the top of your inbox, okay, before I leave. That's it. That's all.